How's it going, friends and family of the internet? Welcome to the Real AF TV podcast, the show about fishing and random takes from the land of 10,000 lakes. I'm one of your hosts, Josh LaBaw.
And I'm the other host, Tim Wagner.
Tim, all right, I found a tiny little bottle of that cold brew
Hey,
Jaeger,
look
dude.
at I thought I had it. Oh, look at it's still down here too.
Hey, I found it. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Is this your first try?
This is it live on air right now.
It's good,
Oh, it's good. It's good. It's very like, oh, the coffee flavor is way strong, dude.
right? Yeah, it's kind of like at first you're like,
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah, it's not bad, right?
It's almost like a latte or something like that, or like a mochaccino,
Yeah.
like a mocha.
Okay. Now I have whiskey Coke here. I'm
Yeah, I
sipping
got one of
on,
those too, but
but I need to refresh your course because I forget. Yes, so we're on the same page here.
right, exactly. Wow,
Yours is cold, right?
frozen in the freezer. You might be able to see the
Yeah.
frost if you're on YouTube.
Mine's not. Oh,
Oh,
Christ.
gr- it's kind of like a iced mocha,
My nose,
but it hits like Jaeger still at the
my
start.
nose itched. I don't know if that was if it made my nose itch. Watch out, kids. It'll make your nose itch. Oh, yeah, no, it's
But by
definitely
kids,
like
he means
Jaeger,
drink
and
responsibly, 21 and up.
it's right, exactly. By children, I mean, uh, but dude, it's pretty good. It's definitely like Jaeger in the front and
Coffee in the
like
back.
coffee in the back, and it's
Yeah,
almost like
yeah.
uh, it's not a overly bitter coffee. It's almost like dark
No,
chocolate notes,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, for sure. It's
But
like
it's coffee for sure. It's
Yeah. I
it's
can't
pretty
believe it.
nice.
I
You know
like it.
what though? I bought it with the intentions of being like I'm gonna mix it with Irish cream because coffee and cream, and then I never did. I have both still. I need to do that.
Yeah, you do. You
I
definitely
just
need to do that.
yeah, because the first night I bought it, we started drinking that, and then we were over at my brother-in-law's house, and he had like a bunch of different bourbons, like he had like
Oh yeah,
Christmas
he's got a
gifts and
rack,
whatnot.
doesn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they had just went
sick.
to Texas, and he brought back some other stuff, so we're just like sampling everything he has, and I'm sampling this and stuff. So at the end of the
You
night,
didn't
I
get
drank a
around to
little bit of this, and we ended up just sampling a bunch of other stuff. But
it. Sounds like a good night. Well,
oh yeah,
Tim, we usually start off the podcast with some fishing news. So if you're new to the podcast, thank you for joining us.
yes,
We usually hit
welcome.
it with fishing news, but here's the thing: we talked about the new classification of burbot, eel pout,
Yep,
right?
yeah,
And how they're going to be game fish in the new regs. Well, the new regs are out, and that is going to be how we kick off our fishing topic. So I'm going to skip over the fishing news this time. We're just going to roll it all in. But before we do that, we got to get to the housekeeping. Of course, this episode is brought to you by Monster Bass and Real AF TV Patreon. That is realaf.tv/Patreon. You can go over to the Patreon page and check it out. That's how you can directly support the podcast.
yep.
We'll get into that later. Also, go to realaf.tv/contact. Give us some feedback on it, because if you have been listening to the podcast for a little while, this fishing news thing that we do in the beginning, I really like it. You know, we grab a fishing news topic, we get quick on it. But there's also such thing as like the 10 or 15-minute podcast out there.
Whoops. So
And I would like to hear from you guys if that is something from the audience. You guys let me know. Do you want us to just split that out? Like, should we just do a 10 to 15-minute podcast?
right, is that
Like,
what you want?
yeah, should I split that out so that the podcast as a whole isn't as long?
We
Because
can
long
do that.
form podcasts are totally what we're going for here. I mean, we're pushing to, we started this thing doing an hour, and now we pretty much do an hour per topic.
Right. Which is like not intentional. We just kind of talk about what we talk about until we're done talking about it.
Right. Right. Until we feel the momentum dying and we kill it. And that's just an example of why me and Tim started podcasts, because we can talk. We like to talk. But that's seriously
Yep.
why I want you to go over to realaf.tv/contact and let us know, because I've been thinking about that. I was like, maybe we should split that off and just do a short podcast. do like the 10-15 minute podcast. Maybe people are really into that. I'm not sure. Let us know. And speaking of sharing, you know that you can share us on the iHeartRadio app because we're on iHeartRadio. We're on
I didn't
iTunes.
know you could
We're on
share it.
all that shit, man. Just hit the share button. Let some people
Share.
know.
Can you share any of the other ones? I never even tried.
Oh yeah, on Spotify you can share. Like there's just like a share
Can you?
button. Yeah.
Dude, I
Actually,
might.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I might start getting into Spotify more and stuff. I know we talked about it one time about
Mhm. Mhm.
the different podcast things, but
Yep.
Google, I guess, is the easiest one to get hacked. Like,
Yeah, okay.
well, from what
Seems
I've
weird,
heard, like,
but
yeah, well, from like they can just like start throwing ads inside your podcasts and stuff because they can just all of a
mm,
sudden go into your system and say that like, oh, make like a dummy account and be like,
mm,
no, I'm the real one. And then
interesting.
Google will just be like, oh yeah, you're the real one. And then it'll like boot us out and then we'll struggle to like get back in and stuff.
Oh,
Well, they just
okay.
run their own ads. I don't think we're big
Well,
enough to worry about it yet, but
right, but I also have ways of preventing that. That's what I bring to the podcast.
there
That's
you
the IT
go.
part that I bring because there's stuff that I can do to do that then, but me and you have to talk about that offsite.
Nice. But yeah, that and just like some of the shit just doesn't work right for I've heard some of the other I I know that we've had a problem with it before where you like put stuff out and like only half of it showed up or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, that
And then
happened only on one podcast, and no, it happened on a couple podcasts. One of them, though, Spotify won't even relink it. The other
oh,
apps
Spotify
picked it
won't.
up. Yeah, so I can
Hmm.
see how Spotify would be more secure in this story because like
Oh
I
yeah.
just overwrote the old file and all the other podcast feed went and grabbed it and downloaded it into their system and
Okay.
it fixed itself. But
Yeah.
Spotify was the only one that just took the OG
Hmm.
and it never fucking came back.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So sorry, a little bit of sidetrack, but yeah, then
Yeah.
I'll learn more about the Spotify and sharing and stuff. And if you could, that'd be super dope. Spotify is definitely a cool platform, and they all seem to be cool if like that's what you're
Mhm.
into. Even I was even familiar with Stitcher for a while,
Mm. Mhm.
um, because that was like linked up with the Mazdas when I was selling cars.
Oh,
So it
sweet.
like came integrated. So I learned all
Yeah.
about Stitcher.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
then, you start getting Spotify got big enough where they're just like, we have
I think
exclusives now, and you're like, shit. Now I have to listen to this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like Spotify and iHeart just ate their lunch, ate Stitcher's lunch. Like they were just
Mhm.
out there for the taking somehow.
But now Conan O'Brien's
Oh yeah,
podcast is
yeah.
actually like at the end, it's like, not brought to you by, but it's like in affiliation with Stitcher. It
Oh,
wasn't always Stitcher, it just changed to Stitcher. So I don't know if they're
oh. So
like
they're starting to scoop stuff up too, probably, huh?
dropping bucks. Yeah, but I'm still listening to it on Google. So it's not like, I don't know if it's just one of those like they pay money to just be like, say our name.
Yeah. No, iHeart is not exclusive. Like iHeart owns a bunch of podcasts, and they're
Oh, right. Yep.
everywhere. And they're
Yep. The
everywhere.
Workaholics guys are iHeart.
Right. But you listen to it
Yep.
on Google. Like,
Yep.
yep, 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 for sure. So it's an interesting deal out there. But anyways, enough about podcasts. Actually, one last thing, because if you do listen to us on Spotify on the app, I realized on the app, not on the desktop, because I listen to on my computer because I have a computer desktop, you can only do reviews through the app. So I've said it before.
Oh,
Yeah, I've said it before. Hey, if you can do reviews, that helps us a ton. That helps bump us up, right? Makes us feel, makes the systems know that we're legit. Um,
yep.
I tried
Lets other people
to
see us.
leave a review for us on Spotify and I couldn't. And it goes, yeah, you have to use the app. I'm like, shit. So if you're if you're using the Spotify app to listen to us, that'd be awesome. If you could leave us a review.
Spotify just like rolls its eyes and calls you grandpa. You gotta use the phone, grandpa.
All right, Tim. So we're gonna get into the fishing topic. It's gonna
Uh-huh.
be. I'm not even gonna say anything right now because we got a bit of an intro for that. But then stick around
Cold in my
for the
teeth.
random take in the second half. We're gonna talk about 16-bit video games. We're just gonna
Boop,
kind
boop,
of get
boop,
into
boop,
it.
boop.
We haven't done a video game topic in a while. I have some stuff rolled in. That's I'm gonna keep it vague because we grew up in the
Yeah.
16-bit era into the 32-bit. That was our shit. And well, it was more than 128s, but that's not the point. The point is
I got all the old systems when the new systems came out.
exactly.
That's how it yeah, so we definitely grew up in that era.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna. I just want to get into that because I got some stuff, and let's get into fishing because Tim, you you sent me a text and you're just like, hey man, I don't know what you got cooked up if you're already done doing the research and you're ready to go, but let's talk conservation and the regs. And I was like, oh yeah, the new regs
That's
are out.
right.
I was already ready for it. So
Yep.
with the burbot, I was going to do the news thing. And then you sent me that text and I was like, okay, let's just roll it all into one. So
Yeah.
Tim, I'm just going to hand it over to you. Kick us off.
All right, man. Well, let me start by saying like do we let's let's talk about the burbot first, right?
Okay.
Cuz I mean,
Yep.
you did
I
some
think so.
research. Yeah, let's get into that first cuz we were talking, like if you're listening to these back to back, we talked about burbot last episode, you coming into this one, here you go. We're hitting it right away.
Yeah,
So,
because the backstory of that was there was a story that was put out, fishing news. The new regs in Minnesota are coming out, and
yes.
they caught wind that the burbot was getting moved from a rough fish over to a game fish.
Yes, sir.
And we were all kind of like, what? What is it? Me and you, I mean, and you were like, dude, that's the first time a fish has ever that I can remember in my history of fishing that has been moved like it's been reclassified. So like, what does that mean? And I
Yeah.
was like, all right, kick ass. When it comes out, I'm gonna find the fuck out.
Right. And I mean, like how would it ever change really, Like it's definitely I don't know when the last time this happened, but
hmm
the it's everything else has basically been a sport fish for as long as you can remember. And
Right,
burbot, like
right.
there I heard tales about people just when they would land them in the past would just like leave them on the ice because they would catch them ice fishing and stuff.
Oh yeah,
And I
the
guess it
rough
just
fish treatment, right? That we
yeah.
talked about in the last episode.
But
With
I mean, it was almost like more so than the rough fish treatment. Like the
mm,
carps and stuff would get thrown in the rocks, and that was illegal. And people would like kind of just be like, "Yeah, take them home and put them in your garden or whatever."
mm-hmm.
But ice fishing, they're just like, "Oh, we're just throwing them on the ice, and they're gonna die here." And then they'll float back
Fall
in the
back
water.
into
So
the
it's almost
water.
like, yeah, it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
a weird one because you're catching them while you're ice fishing, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "Well, we're just gonna throw them on the ice, and they'll eventually go back into the water."
Right,
It's like
right, right.
that's
Yeah,
kind of fucked
that
up,
is
man.
way different now that you say it that way.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah,
I guess like a lot of people were treating him real poorly. So, I mean, that's besides carp, it's never happened. And carp
right.
definitely aren't ever going to get the sport fish title. They're
No, no, no,
still
no.
like,
We've talked
nah,
enough,
the
and we'll
biggest,
talk more
yeah,
about carp, and that's just not
yeah.
changing.
They're just like the most, this is a sport fish in the sense that we can shoot it with a bow. That's the sport of it. We're going to,
Right, right, right.
this is not something anybody's fishing for. We're going to kill these.
Right. Yeah, 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 for sure.
Yeah.
And so the crazy thing about the burbot is I did I'll just be completely transparent. Here's how I did the research. I downloaded the PDF and
Yep.
I did a search. I searched
Yep.
for burbot, I searched for eel pout, and I just searched throughout the regs.
Hmm.
Burbot is what it's referred to as most, so that one hit the most. And uh yeah, dude, I don't know what changed.
Nothing. So
Yeah. Like, do you know that?
yeah,
Like, are you just flat
yeah.
yeah.
No,
The only
so
thing that
what
I could find is you can't buy or sell it.
yeah,
Who the
yeah,
fuck
so
was doing that in the first place?
right. It's I mean, it's a sport fish just like it is with anything else. So you can like with a permit, you can't legally buy or sell any sport fish without the permit. But like
Right.
Maury's Fish Market, you can go there and buy I think everything. Like
Sure.
sunfish, walleye, I think they have it all.
Yeah, because they have the permit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So the to the normal person you can't sell it because it's a regular game fish. Where I don't know what the rules are on rough fish. So that might have been the main thing that changed because when it was a rough fish, it might have just been like buy and sell whatever you want, dude. I mean, just rough fish,
right,
whatever. Who
right.
cares?
Like,
If you go try to
did
sell a
the
carp.
Did the, like, freshwater lobster or whatever the fuck we talked about before, did that catch
Yeah,
on? And then the DNR was
the
just like,
poor
"Oh, people
man's.
be eating these things, man. We need to make some
Yeah.
money off that."
No, it's not just it's not just that though, because there's been eel pout fish fries for a while. I don't know
Sure.
how
Mhm.
many spots have them, but like legitimately, they're just like eel pout fish fry, and then you have like the old timers that are just like, yeah, I ate the eel pout, and then because they know about it,
Right,
Like I remember hearing stories about my great grandma Adeline like cooking up bullheads and shit, and you're just like,
right.
yeah, they got by with what they got by with,
Yeah.
and we've said it before, they're baby catfish. Not trying to get off topic, but it's like these people understand that like the fish if you can eat it, they've tried it before and
Right,
they
right,
go for it. So there's quite a
right.
few people that eat it, but now you got all these. It's weird with like weird eats how it didn't blow up, but I mean we eat lutefisk and shit too, which is the most fucked up dish
Yeah.
in the world, dude. Whoever even came up with that shit?
Dude,
Just
the
get we'll get
all of
we'll get
Scandinavia
fish.
has the weirdest fucking fermented dishes
You
of
ferment
all
it
time.
in fucking poison, dude. You ferment it in lye. It's
Who
literally
thought
like
that that
soaked in
was gonna be a good
poison.
idea? Yeah, I know. It's
It's
fucking
what the
crazy.
fuck?
I still wanna
Just
try it.
like,
I never have. I've been to, like,
dude, talk
Scandinavian
about
festivals and
being
shit, and I
tough as
still
nails.
missed it.
I
Yeah,
like to have that nice poison chemically taste in my fermented fish.
fucking Vikings.
Holy
Crazy,
Christ.
crazy
Yeah,
sons
when
of
fish
bitches.
goes bad, it's gross. What are we gonna do? Put poison in it? Hell yeah, we are. Just like, I don't know.
Yeah, dude. Yes.
Yeah, so, um, but yeah, the burbot, so nothing really changed, but like the regulations will probably come out next year is what I read. So
Oh,
the
really? Okay.
regulations, yeah, and they said probably next winter. And North Dakota already has a daily limit of 10 fish and then the possession of 20.
Mm,
So, but
yeah.
dude, eel pouts, they get pretty decent size like that. And I'm
Yeah.
guessing that there's probably going to be a size limit too. You know, they'll
Oh, I
they'll
gotcha.
probably
So
be
you think they
something.
just recategorized it this year, and now they're working on the actual regs, and then we'll
Yes, yep.
ah, mm,
I think more
mhm.
research needs to go into it. I think they're like,
Sure.
we'll call it a rut, or we'll call it a sport fish now, so
Right.
people aren't like shooting it with a boat. Like with, I don't know if you could, anyways. I don't know where you would find them to go bow fishing. I don't think they're in the shallow waters.
Right. But I know
I
what
think
you mean,
people,
treating it rough, right? So hopefully
right?
people so people hopefully realize that like you stop treating it like you treat rough fish,
Yeah,
and stuff. Yeah, cuz like you you can't spear game fish on the borders. But
right.
and then you look it up and it's just like, "Oh no, you can spear them because
Yeah, there's
the border
there's
states don't have this game fish, like so it's actually really it's a little muddy right now, so
uh
I think that's part
muddy.
of it because it it says in the regs you can't spear game fish on the
Yeah,
border, and then you look up and it goes, "Yeah, burbot are in the same category as carp suckers and that shit," and sounds like a rough fish, right?
right. Yeah,
And so they list all those on the borders, and so it's just like, yeah, you could still fit you
right.
could spear them.
So I said muddy because like I was looking through all their nicknames and there was like mudfish and mud pout and all this other
Oh, okay.
stuff.
Yep.
And the best one in Manitoba, Canada,
Yes.
they call them Maria.
What?
Yo, you catch a
What?
Maria? Hey, what do they probably say? Not yo, just
Hey, hey,
hey.
you catch a Maria?
If you're not gonna eat it, put it back in the lake, hoser. Don't be leaving the Maria on the ice.
Let us know how good that Canadian accent was, Canadian listeners, because that was beautiful.
Well, we're from Minnesota, so
Right, it's not
it's
that big of
pretty
a stretch.
close to what we got going on here. Minnesota.
Right, yeah. You know? All right. So, okay, that's a wrap on the burbot, man.
Dude,
If you
that's
have
it. Yep.
more, leave it in the comments of the YouTube video. And if you're not listening to us on YouTube, just go over there or go to realaf.tv/contact. Let us know. We're also on the social media, so you know how it goes. But hey, let's not do the plugs. Let's get into Tim, what is the like? I mean, it's the regs, right? Because the regs are out,
The regs
and
are out,
we
baby.
wanted to talk about that. We knew that's where we were going to kind of get our research, but like, I don't know, man. You're driving the bus. What are we doing?
Yeah, for sure. So the regs are out, and I saw that you had a little bit down, and we can get to that in a second. But first off, I wanted to touch on what's going on in the walleye world and what people are talking about. So if
Yeah,
you go out and
yeah,
you
yeah,
look
yeah.
at the regulation books and stuff, what you're going to see is that there is a 6 possession limit. And obviously, check your lakes. Certain lakes have certain
Yes.
different ones. I think Mille
Thank
Lacs
you.
is still, I forgot to look at Mille Lacs, but I think they're still at like a 1 fish limit per person because they were having some conservation issues
Mhm.
or whatever. So
Right.
check your lakes and stuff, but the
Yep.
original 6 fish limit is still in play on all the lakes. And I can't remember. I want to say it's like 1/24 inches or something like that. I forget. Maybe 1/20.
Yeah, I
I
didn't get
forget.
that exact number, but you're
Yeah.
you're right
But
that like it's
there's
always size and it's always a
yep.
number and
And
like it
there's
go ahead, sorry.
well, I was
Stepping
gonna
on
say,
you.
and there's slot limits on different lakes too, where the
Mhm.
possession might still be that 6, but you're like
Mhm.
they all need to be within 16 to 20 inches or 16 to 22 or whatever. So
Mhm.
again, check your lakes. They have them listed by lake in each one of them, or in the book. You can go and it shows it lake by lake.
And it's
Um,
also on the DNR, the Minnesota DNR website. So I would hope that your state has something if you're listening outside Minnesota. I hope yours
right.
has something but yeah, you can search by lake specifically.
Yeah. So just s- for an example, Shamana, the lake that I fish a lot, has special regulations, not on walleyes and sunfish, because there's also limits on sunfish. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, we
But
will.
on Chaminade, there's a special limit on pike because they want to make it like a good pike lake to fish.
It's a good pike lake.
So it's you catch tons of little guys. I'm kind of sick of it, and they're like, "You can't keep that many," and I'm like, "Can I please? Let's weed these out." But anyways, they're trying to play the odds, letting the little ones, as many
Right.
little ones, live as they can to make them bigger and whatnot. So
Mhm.
um 3 is the limit on that lake. You can only
Oh,
keep
wow.
3 still, and um it's 1/34 or 32, I think. But they bumped up the limit for all the other lakes in the state that don't have a special limit to 10.
Wow.
It went from 5 to 10, and Chamina's still at
Really?
3.
Wow.
Yeah, I
What
believe. I
was
think it's 3. It might be 5. Now that I say 5 out loud, I'm like, "Oh, shit. Guys, doesn't matter."
check your notebook, check your notebook,
Check your
but you're close.
yeah.
No, I meant
But
you check your notebook. Everybody else, you just fucking get the check your
yeah,
phone.
I didn't write down notes on that. This is just off the
This
top
is
of my head
spitballing.
because I
I got you. I got you.
this was just me looking at the regulations for my lake, and it was in my head still. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but anyways, back to the Walters. This is slang term for the inside. Anyway,
That's inside
that's
baseball.
inside baseball.
You can
Walters,
check
the
Urban Fishing
walleye. You
Dictionary
get
for
it.
that one.
Yeah. So, but that 6 fish limit, the original 6 fish limit was put in place in 1956.
Get out of here, dude.
Isn't that insane?
That's crazy.
So think about what times were then
That's what I'm saying.
with
It's like so much has happened with. Wow. Sorry.
electronics, everybody knowing how to fish everything, the amount of knowledge that you have, the social media presence, you know?
Just the fact that I can go to the DNR website, look up fishing this lake,
Yes,
and get information like that.
you can get
Like, I don't
information,
have
you
to
can
find a
get
conservation officer. I can
yeah,
literally look it up on my phone as the boat's going into the lake.
you can learn about the bait fish,
Oh
you can
shit,
learn
shit,
about
shit, shit.
what?
Sorry. I hope it doesn't it's more me. Sorry. I
Oh,
hope my
okay.
background noise didn't just kick in. I forgot to turn off
Oh,
the heater.
oh,
Sorry,
I
sorry,
didn't
sorry.
hear nothing. No, I think you were good. But so with like even the social media presence and stuff. So think about like the anglers, like the boats and stuff that they have. In 56, it took you a half hour to get across the lake. It's,
Yeah.
like
Right,
now
right. Yeah.
now
I love
everybody's
that
got
you're
these
laughing
nice
and I'm just, like, deadpan.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, of course it
So
did. You had a fucking
now everybody
15 horse Johnson on the back of the
right, right.
like, outbo
So yeah, it was like 50 horses was the biggest one, and everybody's got like the 3 bench seats, and just is
Yeah.
there was better back in 56. I'm
I know, but
dumbing it down to like
we're
the
being
shittiest
general.
boats, but
Right, but we're also doing that because I mean, I don't know about you, but, like, when I was a kid, I grew up in '80s boats because we're not like, '90s
yeah,
kid had '80s boats, like,
yeah, for sure.
I wasn't we didn't have any money. Everybody
Yeah,
was buying fucking 15-year-old boats,
yeah, dude.
and they were just
My
wooden benches
parents,
with
I don't know what I can't remember
cutouts.
if my dad bought his new or what, but it was definitely like old. It was like a white and yellow boat, and it had the center console and stuff. It was decent,
Sure.
but it was nothing special. We didn't have electronics, and that's another thing. In 56, what I don't know when the first flasher was made, but you're talking like the ice fishing flasher that only knows what's directly below you at best back then.
Right,
So you
right,
might be able
right.
to know what depth you're in at a
Mhm.
certain point,
Yep.
but I don't even know if there was like contour maps back then. I would think that there would be, but how were they even
Hmm.
measuring that stuff at that point? So
Sonar?
now with
I mean, it
contour
wouldn't be as
maps,
up to date as it is now.
oh, for sure. There's certain ones that you definitely can where you can just drive around and it'll map it out for you because the GPS knows where you're at and it's sensing the depths at the same time. So it'll literally like create the map as you're driving around. Well, and at best back then, you were knowing how deep you were in. You weren't being able, you weren't, side imaging. You're able to find structure. You're able to know exactly where you're at, find the weed edge, know everything about where you're fishing. Now they have the live imaging where you're able to see exactly like what's in front of you or find the weed edge, like the electronics these days, that there's more anglers than there ever have been. And with social media, you're able to like find the hot bites and stuff. People are, like there's certain things that I've said where like in the springtime, I know where I'm gonna go. Yeah. So they're like, I'm gonna go bite, catch these or whatever. So even if they're not trying to share this stuff, they send a picture like of where they caught that fish. That person a lot of times is able to figure out where they're at. It'll show the location if they're not paying attention. If they don't want to, even they might share it. So times have definitely changed, and we still have that possession limit. And they've also so they stock a lot of fish still. One of the other things I heard is that on the lakes that have zebra mussels, and I said that weird mussels, the they they are having hard times keeping the walleye fry alive. For whatever reason, on these walleye, like the zebra mussel lakes, the walleye fry are dying off. So the walleye fry are small fish. It's like fry are little babies, and then fingerlings are, about as big as your finger. And then there's yearlings, and then after that, they basically become adults. Yeah, so they'll stock all those different kinds of size, but the fry are dying off early. And I think it's probably just because of clear water, like stuff's able to see them a little bit better and they're able to take them out. I don't know exactly what's going on there, or the zebra mussels might actually be eating like the plankton and stuff, kind of taking out the food source for minnows and probably fry when they're that little. I don't know what the food source is for them. So, anyways, all that stuff being said, they are really pushing hard. They have talked to a lot of different people. I saw this on, I don't know if it was like an infisherman thing or Al Linder was talking about it, and he's from infisherman, and they were talking. They had a lot of different DNR stuff, but they're talking to go to a 4 fish limit with one over 20 inches. And there's a decent amount of people out there that are being like, "Oh, that's not enough meat," and it's like, "Fuck you, that's not enough meat. That's per person. If you want to catch enough fish for your whole family to eat, then have them come fishing with you." One.
Hey, there it is. Okay. All right. Well, all right, Tim. It's fucking lots of tech issues again. Damn it. So, anyways,
Golly
let's just
jeepers.
let's just hard cut there and deal with the lag as it is. Sorry, everybody.
Apologies.
You still got stuff to talk about.
Okay. Another thing, while I was looking through the regulations, I'm sure there's some other stuff out there, but one thing that I didn't understand at all, if anybody from the DNR can tell me this, it'd be cool. So The muskie possession limit is 1, and it's any fish over 54 inches, right?
Mm,
That makes sense. It's
okay.
like you caught a trophy fish, you wanna actually have, like, a
Oh,
real taxidermy thing, you can put it on your wall,
right.
cool.
Okay, okay.
But there are special regulations for, like, 20 some lakes where you can keep one over 40. They're like, "Yeah, over 40 is fine." That used to be the old regulations, but then they changed it to 54. Why are there like, yeah, you can keep one over 40? What's the point?
Nobody's eating this fish, so
Nobody's eating that fish, and who's putting a 40-incher on the wall? That's unless it's
that's
your first one. I do have should say, in fairness, I do have a 42-incher
mhm.
that ended up coming out like ridiculous because it's not a real, it's a replica,
It's a
and the
photo,
replica.
right? Like, you sent in photos. That's how it works?
Right, yep, and it's a replica, and the replica that they made of my muskie, they used based off of, like, one of the, like, monsters out there, so its whole girth and everything is off, like, it looks like a giant fish, and
Uh.
I'm looking at it like, "That was not the fish I caught," you know? But because of its
Yes.
size, and since I've caught a 47-inch, that we measured, and then another one where I was walleye fishing and ended up catching a bass, and the bass got ate by the muskie and still
Oh
landed it, and
god.
that was a giant, like 50-inch fish, but I didn't get a chance to measure it. We're just going based off, kind of like laying or like holding it on the deck, eyeballing it, trying to look later, like, oh, that was like a 50-inch fish. It's definitely the biggest muskie I've ever caught. I've caught a
Right.
couple, and I held that one up, and I mean, like standing it, like with my arm curled, the tail went down to my toes, and I'm 6'2", like just like this is a massive fucking fish. So now I feel content with
Got
having
it.
that fish on the wall. But when I first got it, I'm like, this is not the fucking fish I got. That thing looks huge. So,
But you
but like
since have
going back to a
filled that
42-inch
fish's,
fish,
like,
I
quota.
don't, I don't know who wants to put a 42-incher on the wall. So it's just like that's just
Yeah.
odd to me why there's special regulations to have a handful of lakes at 40 when everything's been changed to 54. One other
Mm.
thing to go back to
Oh, yeah, please.
about the walleye on your license, it's a secret. If you guys, n- if you have one of the newer license, not
Yep.
the older license where it looks like a regular driver's license, like where they changed it, if
Mhm.
you know what I'm talking about, if you live
Yeah,
in
so,
Minnesota,
like,
you know.
the short version of this, quick to sum it up for anybody listening outside Minnesota, is, like, the feds, they mandated, real ID. The real IDs are hard to get, but we decided to change it anyway, and we're also sort of resisting it as a state. And the long story short is we had to redesign them not too long ago, and now they're covered in holographics, and I don't know,
Yeah.
it gets crazy.
So, yeah, so if you flip the license over and you're looking at the back of it, you can't see it just looking at it, but if you shine a flashlight from the front through the back, I can't remember if it's in like the upper right-hand corner or where it is, but you can see the walleye. There's an outline of a walleye. It's little.
No way.
Yeah, but you can see it. You got to flip it so your face side is like
Really?
on the light, and the light's shining through the backside, and
Holy
then you look at the
shit.
backside and you can find the walleye.
That's crazy, dude.
Yep.
That's awesome. I had no idea. I'm gonna have to look at it because I don't even have one yet. I haven't had to. I will
Yeah.
soon, but I haven't had to get one yet. So I never even looked into that. That's sweet.
Hey, and here's a good segue since we're about to be talking about video games. That's a fishing Easter egg on your driver's license.
Nice one, Tim. Kick ass. Let's get into the random take then, and let's talk about the 16-bit generation. Was it a good generation? Were the games actually good? Or is that just nostalgia talking? I don't know yet. But you're about to find out what me and Tim think in the second half. Let's hit the break.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the break. Welcome to the part where we ask you to support the podcast by going to realaf.tv/monsterbass. where you can let Monster Bass know that the Real AF TV podcast sent you to their website. Tim, Monster
Yeah,
Bass,
yeah,
they have boxes, they have bags. You
yeah.
said in the past you prefer the bag. They have boxes now. I've seen that. And they call themselves a box because there are associations out there already that are very there are associations to be made with like food services, or for me there are geeky services that will just pack up a bunch
Those,
of
yeah.
quote unquote collectibles and they will send it to you, and it's a mystery but it's themed and it's exciting. Is that what Monster Bass is for fishers?
Shit, yes. So it's for bass fishermen, man. It's monster bass. So if you are a bass fisherman, it is great. And they use anglers to help them pick out the baits and stuff and put them in there. And it is made specifically for where you live. You know, if they're not going to give you some crazy giant swim bait that they're using down in Florida, you know, that's basically a musky bait up here because they're
Mm-hmm.
giving you bass baits. And they're giving you stuff that works like for that time of year. So plus they're hooking you up with full rigs. If they're giving you a soft plastic bait, they're giving you, at least from my like what I have heard and what I've experienced, if you're getting a soft plastic, you're getting the hooks and the weights to use it with it. And so they're giving, and they'll
Nice.
give you, sometimes I got a couple different soft plastics and a couple different ways to rig them. They're giving you like the Ned head jig to set up on the little bait. Plus I had like the Texas rig style. So they're like giving me a bait with two different ways to rig it. That's like two baits in one, dude. Plus
Nice.
all the other baits. And they give you like the full list of what all the baits would cost you if you weren't getting it in the box and what each one of them are. And their brands, I don't really know well because they're giving you a taste of all these different ones, but they're
Nice.
all quality baits still.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love getting new baits, you know,
Yeah.
and seeing stuff that's not the norm. If you go into a bait shop, every bait shop gives you all that junk. It's makes it more like Christmas when you're getting stuff that you haven't seen before. I get way more excited about seeing stuff that I haven't seen before. And it's still quality stuff. It's still, you know, good colors. It's not like they're giving you the junk that they're trying to get rid of.
Right.
You know? It's
Yeah.
awesome stuff.
Like they're
It's
hand picking good stuff to send you
hand-picking good
each month,
stuff.
and
Yeah,
that's the great thing, is that it's like every month you're gonna
Mhm.
get good stuff. And if
Yeah.
you are listening to this and you are looking to have that same feeling, that same excited Christmas, what am I getting? I can't wait to learn something new or get something new in the mail. You can visit realaf.tv/monsterbass. Remember, that's real like fish and reel. realaf.tv/monsterbass to let Monster Bass know that the Real AF TV podcast sent you over there. It'll help support the
Heck yeah.
podcast.
Yep. And just a side note that I just thought of right now, what a great gift to get for a beginner angler. We've talked
Oh,
about it before. If you have somebody that wants to start fishing but doesn't know what to buy,
yeah.
these are baits being picked out by dudes that know how to fish. So they're getting sent quality stuff. So if you're like, I don't know what I should use, bam, got you set up. Hooks,
Yeah.
weights, everything. Look, it's ready to roll.
Bam.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Nice. That's realaf.tv/monsterbass. Remember, real like fish and reel. Let them know that we sent you. Guess what? It's Patreon time. I mean, like every time is Patreon time for us.
Yeah.
This is the best way that you can help support the Real AF TV podcast directly. Help us stay independent by going to realaf.tv/Patreon. It'll shoot you over to our Patreon page, and you can see all the different tiers that we have available to you, including, Tim, voting
Yep.
on a random take. Am I
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, if you want to know, not if you want to know, if you want to pick what we talk about, you just got to go over there, join our Patreon, and then vote on a topic.
That's
Submit
right.
your own topic. I don't care. Tell
Yeah.
us what.
That's
I mean,
correct.
Yep,
We'll
we'll do
listen.
our
We
best.
listen.
We will listen. That's a good way to say it. We will listen.
Yeah, we definitely listen. We will listen. We will put it on the doc if we find it appropriate. Of course, keep it appropriate. Don't be weird. But it's patreon.com/realaftv. Remember, real like fish and reel. And that is the way to support the podcast directly. Keep us independent. We are still keeping it independent, even though we are on all of the big platforms. Yeah, and it's really is a community that we're trying to build over there on
Yeah.
Patreon, and that is really the point. It is not necessarily a just to about the money. Of course, keep the money coming in, keep it rolling. But the point is to start building that community, that fisher community, that fishing community that the Real AF TV podcast is trying to do, and that the Real AF TV YouTube channel is trying to do. Everything can get funneled through the Patreon channel. If
Yeah.
you go over there and drop us a couple bucks, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, it would help us tremendously. If you guys don't want me see me sitting in the corner of my mom's basement anymore, that'd be nice
We
to
have
get out of
dreams
here.
to get that studio going. Help us out. Patreon.com/realaftv. Real like fish and reel. How's it going, friends and family of the internet? Oh, don't go all the way into the full intro, Josh. This is just the break. We are back into the random take of the Real AF TV podcast, a show about fishing random takes from the land of 10,000 lakes. Tim,
Yes.
the random take, 16-bit games.
Hell
I've
yes.
been doing a lot of thinking about 16-bit games lately, and let
Okay.
me take you on a little bit of a journey, if I may.
Yes.
You, the listener, Tim, you, the other host.
Yes.
I was on vacation,
All right.
and it was the first time I've been on vacation with a child, my
Mm.
child.
Yes.
Oh, it was rough. It was rough, dude. I would never call it vacation, but
No.
but like any other time, I mean, it was great. It was great, and
Yeah.
you know,
Good.
we'll talk about it off mic sometime next time we hang out, which hopefully is soon. Um,
Yeah.
the the place was nice. The weather was
Okay.
great.
Yep.
The travel was tough, and I knew going into it that there was going to be an arcade machine there, and I was so pumped on it.
All right. Did you know which one?
That's the thing, is it's just a
Oh.
photo. So
Oh.
from the photo, I'm like, okay, I think I know what we're getting into here. Hopefully, it won't be as crazy as I think it is, but I think I know what I'm expecting. And it was. It was a ROM machine. Uh, do you know what I mean by that? It was
No.
it was it was a computer
Okay.
with a custom program, one program on it, and it brought up a custom arcade interface. And on that was a bunch of different options. There was just like, here's all the pinball machines that are on here, and here's all the NES
Okay.
machines,
I
and
get
here's all
you.
the
I
arcade
get you.
machines, right? Okay.
Yep.
So I thought that's what we were getting into. So I didn't have high hopes for it because usually ROMs are just they're rips of the original. Usually they don't hold up. Usually they have
Okay.
some
Yep.
kind of glitch and shit. Turns out the whole machine was just semi glitchy, but once you got into a game, dude, it was on. And it fucking worked like every time.
Nice.
So it was so exciting. So nighttime would come, we'd have dinner, game on.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Nice.
And I didn't play a ton uh because it was so glitchy that eventually I would just like it was hard for me. But anyways, I was playing 16-bit games on there aside from Paperboy that one time. Paperboy's dope. People
Yeah,
hate on
dude.
Paperboy. I love Paperboy.
Sure, it's not. I don't know. I don't hate on it. It's fucking dope.
Yeah. And actually, I have the 16-bit version of Paperboy. There was a Paperboy. I was a Sega Genesis kid, and I have the
Yeah.
16-bit version of it, and I actually,
It was 2, right?
to my
Wasn't there
memory,
s it
that was
was single
better.
Paperboy 2, wasn't it?
No, Paperboy 2
Yeah, I
was,
thought it
well, I think Paperboy 2 was on those systems, though.
okay.
I think Paperboy 2 made it onto the 16-bit. If not, it made it onto the Super Nintendo, I think. And it was not the Paperboy that I'm talking about, because the Paperboy I'm talking about with this on the Sega Genesis was almost like a remake, re-release. Like they redid the graphics, but it still pretty much played the same. Because it's even
Okay.
different on the cover. It's not the blue Paperboy cover, but that was the game that I played, I guess is what I'm
I
trying to
just
say.
the cover I remember is, like, a kid on, like, a BMX bike, and it's,
Mhm.
like, a shot from, like, the street looking up at him as he's, like, trying to pop over it. Bunny hop.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Paperboy 2. Yeah, this and it
That's
was
the
a real
second okay.
kid. It was a real kid. Like, it was
Right,
a
yeah, it was
real
a real
photo.
person,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
Now this is an illustration. But, okay, so anyways, I played the 8-bit version on the arcade machine, and then I got into some of the 16-bit stuff, and it was sick, dude. It was so
Dude,
good.
yeah. 16-bit games are fucking sick, dude. For real. They're,
They
like
are.
they withstand the test of time, like, all of them
I
do.
think so. I
I mean,
now
unless they
I
suck shit to begin with, but I don't think if they were a good game then, they're a good game now.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I got from it. Now, I'm not gonna stand completely behind the racing games,
Oh,
because
yeah, that's the
it was
yeah,
h
good point.
right, because as soon as things got 3D, you were like, "Oh, oh, that's
Yeah,
what
right.
3D space is supposed to feel like."
Yes, exactly, yeah, racing game was a little bit different. I should say, like, anything that was a side scroller, you
Yes.
know? Or
Yes.
even fighting games. Side scrollers or fighting games, they were all dope.
Yep, yep. Even Paperboy, being an 8-bit game, I know at the one that I was playing was like, it still holds up because it's just you. It's a side scroller at a different angle, right?
Right, that's one thing, like, I don't understand why people would even hate on it because it's the first of its kind. They're like,
To
"Yeah, it's
to
a
be
side
at that,
scroller, but
like,
it's an angle, and then
yeah,
you have to dodge stuff and time stuff."
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's very similar to Frogger, except for you have an added, uh, thing to do because you have to throw the paper at the
Right,
right
right,
time. You have to have it
right.
timing. It's not you're dodging stuff just like you are with Frogger. Well, I guess Frogger, you decide when to go and when to stop, and Paperboy is like you're just going and you have to
There's
dodge
no
stuff and throw
stopping.
a paper.
Right.
Right. But dude,
But you're
I
not
thought it was
wrong.
dope.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I'm totally with you. And even with how crazy graphics are now, and how amazing an open world RPG is, uh, you play RPGs for the story most of the time. And a
Yep.
16-bit RPG totally holds up. Now, that's not related to the arcade machine, but yeah, I mean, you said it. These games are just solid, right?
Hell yeah, dude. And all of like the so Super Mario Bros. Classic. Like
Right.
the original Super Mario Bros. Is so good.
Like on
Second one,
NES,
third
just
one,
the
too.
Nintendo version, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Super Mario World is just like another level, dude.
like a different level.
It's j- it,
How?
it like
But it
everything's
is.
like yeah, it's just like the graphics are better. Like Mario has like a face, not just like a weird mustache. Like
Right.
everything looks better.
Mhm.
Yoshi, you get
Right.
Yoshi there.
Right.
Like you had the ability to be able to ride different stuff. Like
Mhm.
it opened up new worlds. It's not just you jumping on stuff. It's like you're Yoshi. Now you can his tongue can eat stuff from a distance and then you can use that as different powers and stuff. Like
Right,
just
right.
the possibilities of what the game was able to do was a whole
Oh, yeah.
new like this is crazy.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
colors even, like, I know,
Right.
like, you
Yeah.
could get different colors on the other ones, but you're like, "Oh, I got a yellow Yoshi. Oh, I got a red one." You're just like, "Hoofed, dude." It was that was dope stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
then
I completely
that
agree.
was when you introduced, like, the fighting games too, you know, where you're
100%, dude. That's when fighting games took off, and at that on that arcade machine, they had Street Fighter. There was Mortal Kombat and stuff like this. You're
yes.
fucking right, I was playing those games, dude, and they're
Dude,
solid,
what's
and think
crazy
about it. They're still built that way. They're 3D graphics now, but how do
yeah.
you play those games? Sideways.
Right, right. Yes, exactly.
They're not
And it's
3D
still
fighters, they're
crazy
still
too.
2D fighters.
Right, right. Yep. Well, Virtua Fighter was like 3D. You still use like side to side, but you could actually go, like it was a 3D
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
space.
You're right. So
But
the Virtua Fighter was actually a 3D fighter on the 16-bit platforms. You're right,
yeah,
but
it was still like a side scrolling mentality. It still had like the side scrolling camera, but if you wanted to dodge the opposite,
give that
up
sidestep.
and down, I guess if you're because even when you're talking 2D, you still have it. Is that, there's left and right, and then it's like up and down is still,
Mhm.
north and south or whatever, however you want to say it.
Okay, I got you.
But yeah, dude, the fighting, like the craziness was like, here's Street Fighter, and you're like, oh, that fighter's dope. And then they're like, here's Mortal Kombat where we're gonna use real people. And you're just like, what? And that was crazy too, because you're like, look at how realistic this looks. It's like because it's real people. And then
Right.
you have the most realistic looking people with the most hardcore fucking game of its time. I remember that being like controversial, like Mortal Kombat, like, oh
Oh,
my
yeah.
god, it's murder. Just like, yeah, it's clearly all fake, but
Right,
that
right.
was when people were still losing their shit. Like these kids are gonna try to throw spears at each other. Like, fuck you and your the video game's gonna do this shit. Are
Right,
you the
right.
people that came up with lawn darts? Like, oh
Wait
yeah,
a minute, aren't
get
you the
mad
people
at
that invented the lead tipped, uh, game of "Don't get in the way"
right, just
or it'll
throw this
stick you?
fucking thing up and let it stick and just be like, kids have not even thought about doing this until this. Like, bullshit. Kids used to shoot each other with BB guns for fun. We gave them something to stop them from doing that shit.
Dude, you brought up something that I didn't even think about with these is the real people thing. Is this was like the closest thing this was and this is what I was actually gonna say with Mario now, is like it was the it's like the perfect balance between cartoon and reality while still running like really, really well.
Yeah.
Because we
Yep.
switched to 3D at some point, and that was in the 30 that was the next gen and 32-bit era. And if you think about it, the RPGs were still staying flat because they were such big giant games, right, across like multiple
Right.
discs, and a lot of them
Yep.
still remained flat. But uh and the ones that stayed 2D, they could up their graphics and colors and everything like that. Sure, okay, but that's all cartoon. uh Mortal Kombat just fucking stayed the same. Like,
Yeah, dude.
they were just
Yeah.
like, I don't know, it's fine. It's fine.
Right.
We're just gonna keep it that way.
Yep. Yep. Dude.
It's
Oh, it marked the beginning of so much different stuff. That was when you went from like the old school, just like, you know, Mario,
Mhm.
was all of it was just like do 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 do. Shit, now I'm doing. I have Super Mario World in my
I
head,
was gonna say
but it was
that was
just like
World.
you had like the old school explosions where like,
Right.
and it was just
Yep.
like the weirdest sounding noises, and you're like, what? That I guess that was an explosion, and then you got Mortal Kombat, and you have real ladies and dudes, and they get like speared, and it's just like, yeah, and you're like,
Yep. Yep.
holy shit, dude, that was a real person's voice. Did you hear like what he sounded like when I fucked him up, dude? It was
Right.
so exciting when you could hear all those different noises.
Oh
And then,
yeah, yeah.
there's, like, bass notes and stuff in the Super Mario world, the da-ding, da-ding, ding, da-ding, da-bing,
Hmm.
bunk, and then you go, da-doom, boom, you know, there and you go,
Hmm.
"Holy shit, look at" like, I
Oh,
was super
it
I don't know if
changed.
anybody else even got into that shit, but when you had all those different notes and stuff in the Mario game, it's just like, "Oh my god, this is
Yeah.
opening up a whole new world of sounds, a whole new world of games themselves." Like, it
Hmm.
it was so exciting, and it all holds up.
Well, yes, I agree that it, I agree almost all of it holds up. Uh, but I have to say almost all of it because it was good. Yes, the music and
Yeah.
stuff like that was good. The screams, basic stuff, but I was playing the ROM of Street Fighter, the reals like this is a rip off of the game cartridge essentially,
Yep,
and you'd
yep.
fly over and it would go Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like, that
Yeah,
is
that
nostalgia kicking in, trust me, because when you play that on the 32-bit systems or you play it on the arcade, it actually sounded way better because they had more memory and space and they could actually put a better record in all that stuff. So, nostalgia's kicking
right.
in a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, some of that stuff doesn't yeah, but, that was also, like, maybe, like, the weakest part of that game. Like, the
Oh,
nostalgia kicks in, but
100%.
also, like, they probably didn't put a lot of time and effort. They're just like, it's gonna should we just have them say the name?" Yeah, just record it real quick, get in the booth." "Japan, was that good?" "Yeah, dude, deal with it." "Yep,
Yeah, whatever, dude. It's gonna be compressed all shit anyway. It's like it
yeah,
doesn't
nobody's
matter.
ever gonna talk about this ever again, especially not
Not in
30,
2022. It's
30
like
years
never gonna
later.
happen. Right? For sure. But I mean, you make such good points because have been I'm not a huge we talked about like what's old is new again, right? Like we did a
Yep.
random take on that. And I'm not a huge fan of like feeding nostalgia by doing direct remakes of things and, like eh, I want you to think of something different or find a gap in the market and make that. I would rather something new or at least find a gap and fill it up again with whatever is missing. And I say that because there's a new Ninja Turtles game coming out, dude. And I've been holding
Oh,
off on saying it because the whole Switch debacle, because that's probably where I'm going to buy it.
yeah. Yeah, dude.
And so there's a new Turtles game coming out, but I don't think that brawler space is really being fed that many games. That 2D side-scrolling brawler, just a beat 'em up in general. It's I just
Yeah.
don't see it being fed the way that it used to be. Uh, well, you want to talk about beat 'em ups? That's pretty much all we had in the 60-bit
True.
era.
Dude, yeah. I mean, even the shitty ones, like, I still played a lot. I remember having
Yep.
Sonic Blast Man.
What?
Uh, yeah, it's just like, what the fuck is this one even?
What the
And he
fuck?
had like he he had a chest. He almost looked like Optimus Prime, but like he was a real person. Like he looked like a real
Oh,
person in like a really good Optimus Prime like Halloween
cosplay?
costume, but then he had boxing gloves for some reason.
What the fuck?
Yeah, dude. And and you just
Yes.
and you'd like roll through like I don't know if there was a storyline in the book or whatever, but you'd like roll through the streets and the first one's like all these thugs and stuff, and then you get to the second one, like after you fight the bite boss, it's the exact same thing over and over and over again. But you get to the second one and it's like, like weirder stuff, and then I can't remember like the third one was like aliens, and then like the fourth one it's like just it gets harder and weirder. Like now they're kind of invisible, and you're like, well, I can still see
Kind
them
of.
pretty good, but yeah, what the fuck is?
That was one
Is-
thing I don't think that they could do very well. Well, because there's probably a memory thing, but, like, yeah, I don't remember transparency being a really good thing back then. It's just like, "I'm invisible." Uh, "Nah, you're just kind of, like, purple, I think."
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I think I still remember it being a little bit like where they just made it more opaque because I remember like when in Turtles in Time when you get knocked out and you came back in,
yeah,
you
you kinda
couldn't like really
flashed
hit
and
anybody. Yeah, you were almost like
yeah,
invincible for like a little bit, like
you were,
just so
for
you
sure.
didn't like
Mhm.
so you didn't float back in and get knocked out right away. Like you got a chance to figure out which guy you were. Like oh that's
Yeah.
me
Oh,
glowing.
yeah, for sure. That was definitely happening. Uh-huh. 100% that was
Yeah. So
happening.
I think
Yeah,
that's the best version of what they had.
I
Was
agree.
it
I
just
agree.
like, "We'll make it a little bit opaque, and it's good enough," you know?
Uh, so the speaking of Turtles in Time, dude, again, sorry to bring this up, but it's available on PS4 too. I'm probably gonna get it on Switch. They're making a Cowabunga collection, a Ninja
Hell
Turtles
yeah.
Cowabunga collection. Check this out, dude. The original arcade game, Turtles in
Alright.
Time, the
Yep.
arcade version,
Okay.
the original Ninja Turtles for NES, the arcade port of
I think I
Ninja
had that one, it
Turtles.
was hard as fuck.
Yeah, that's what I hear. And it was called Turtles 2 on the NES because they already made the original version. But Turtles 2 on the NES is a port of the arcade version, which
Okay.
is a sad port because the arcade was so much more powerful. But anyways, then they
Sure.
have Turtles 3, which was the like the Shanghai one from what I understand, you know?
Oh, was it a spin-off of the movie? I didn't see it. Or
I think so.
I
Yeah.
seen the movie, I don't think I've ever played that game.
Yeah. Nobody did
Yeah,
because
because
it was
Turtles
the end
3
of the
was where they went
NES.
back in time
Yeah, and
in
Turtles
the
3
movie.
was, the end of the NES era-ish,
Okay.
from what I remember. Then there's
Yeah.
a Nintendo game I've never even heard of, a Ninja Turtles called Tournament Fights. I've never heard of that one.
No, me neither. Uh-uh.
So so then here it is.
Wonder now
They
I
got
wanna check it out now.
yeah, I know. So I can't wait for this game to come out. I'm like, "What the fuck, dude? I'm jacked." So then not only is the Turtles in Time arcade version on there, they're gonna put the Turtles in Time NES version on their SNES version as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Tournament
That'd be cool
Fighters.
to play 'em,
Oh, go
like,
ahead.
back to back and see the big differences.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that's totally something I was thinking about on this because they have it's so weird. This is why I'm not a huge fan of nostalgia because they should have just picked one. Tournament Fighters, Tournament Fights, Nintendo Edition. Tournament Fights, Super Nintendo Edition. And Tournament
There's
Fights, Sega Genesis Edition. All three of them on there so that they can pump up the number of this is how many turtle games we have on this fucking cartridge. Like,
yeah,
get
I
out of here.
guess. Right,
That's so
right, like,
stupid, dude.
I don't understand. Yeah, one's, like, a little bit shittier graphics and the other one says Sega at the
Right when it
beginning.
boots up. It's so stupid. But so they're gonna have the tournament, the Turtles in Time Super Nintendo edition and the arcade edition. That would be that one because I think that one's our I think that's the one that me and you probably have the most like time invested in. It seems like from
Oh,
what we've
for
talked about.
sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
you actually
I
own that
played
one,
the
right? Like you have
I
the
do, yep, I
you
have that
own the
one and I
OG.
have I'm pretty sure I have the original Ninja Turtles on Nintendo too, still.
Oh, sick, dude.
And I played that one a lot, but as far as I remember, there's a couple of spots that are just hard as shit to pass. Maybe I could figure it out
Hmm.
now, but when I was a kid, hard shit,
You had a
bro.
hard time
But
getting
it's
by.
like,
Yeah.
it's in there.
Hmm.
Just thinking about it now, I can think about the graphics and exactly how
Hmm.
everything went and stuff. And I remember the
Hmm.
cover. The cover is gnarly cover art. For whatever reason, all the turtles have like glowing white eyes, and it looks almost sinister. Like you look at it, you're like,
Oh
they
yeah.
were always like really happy. They look badass, and it's like, what is
That's
up
right.
with this
I forgot
storyline?
about that. Yeah, I forgot about that. And that's how the new Turtles. not the newest version of like next gen, I think it's called, but like TMNT for Nickelodeon. Uh,
Mm.
the one prior to this most recent one, they had that like where their eyes rolled back in their head, like went all white. It was like a battle mode thing. It was part of the story. They never really
Oh,
explained it.
really?
It just kind of happened. Yeah,
Huh.
where their
Crazy.
pupils went away. Yeah. So
They're
now that
like
you say that,
sharks
I'm
now.
kind of like, oh shit. They just got that thing that just goes whoosh over their eyes.
Yep. Eyes roll
Uh
back in the head, black like doll's eyes.
oh,
That's from
did you
Jaws.
just make that up?
No,
You just
that's
make
from
that up?
Jaws. That's from
Oh,
Jaws.
okay. Yeah. I've only watched Jaws all the way through one time, and that was because my wife was like, "What? You ain't never seen Jaws? We're gonna watch it." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Hells yeah. Yeah, it does. That
S-
one's a little bit old, but
Is it good?
uh
It holds up.
it's once you get into the whole boat scene when they're out in the water, it's
Yeah.
definitely
Okay.
that's once they're in the water, it's good.
Yeah.
But
You're
the
right.
the whole early part is weird.
It's a
Have her
little
cut open
different.
the shark and just have that boy spill out on the the just like
Forgot about that.
Jesus.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it was a little rough. Okay, back to I want to talk about this Cowabunga collection one more time because there's 3 Game Boy games in there, dude. I
Oh, dope. Yeah, I
didn't
don't think I ever played a Ninja Turtle Game Boy game.
Me neither. And I played the fuck out of Game Boy. Like I
I did too.
have
I think I
oh,
only
go
had
ahead.
2 games though. I played Super Mario. Oh, it was called something else on the Game Boy. Super Mario.
Oh, what was it?
It
Yeah, I
wasn't.
know which one you're talking about. We had that one
Yeah, it
too.
wasn't World. It was
It was
something else.
blue. Yeah.
I
Shit.
can't remember if it was
I
blue,
can't
but
remember what it was
it was
called, but
something. It
yep,
was
I
a
know which one you're
land.
talking about.
Super Mario Land
Sounds
is what
right.
it was called. I'm pretty sure. And
Sounds right.
that one was different, dude. It's weird. It was
Mhm.
all right.
It was
It
good.
was one.
It was good.
Yeah,
Like
and
it
then
played well from my memory.
yes, I do remember playing it a lot. And then I had Pokemon, and I think those were the only 2 games I had.
Oh, nice.
But
I
I
had
played the shit out
Paperboy.
of them. You know, you didn't really need
Yeah,
much.
oh,
But
I know.
I had Paperboy on the Nintendo, so or I might
Oh,
have only
sick.
had
Yeah, see,
Paperboy 2 on the Super NES then, because if that's the picture, I'm
that
pretty sure that's
makes
the one I
sense.
had.
Yep. That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah.
I so I bought Paperboy on Game Boy, and
Okay.
then that was like one of my first games I ever bought with my own money. And then we had the Mario game, but then we had Link's Awakening, and they
Oh,
remade
okay.
that on Switch. Like they did a full-on remake,
Yep.
and I remember parts of that game playing the remake
That's
because I
that's
never beat
cool.
it. I was a kid. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And even now I'm playing with a guide, one in, every fourth play. I have to look up the
Okay.
guide to try to figure it out because it's hard. I mean, it's just like it doesn't
Sure.
point you, like new games, they'll put like a fucking yellow glowing arrow. That's like, hey, go over here.
Okay.
It's like you have to pay attention to this. You have to pay attention to this game. And that kind of remake I'm okay with because one, I never beat it, so I'm going back and playing it. But
Yes.
like these direct ports where I'm gonna buy the Cowabunga collection, but like, come on, you seriously put this fucking
Ri
tournament fighter game on there 3 times and ain't nobody ever heard of that shit? Come
Right.
on, get out
I
of here.
wonder yeah, I wonder if it was, like, if they actually did just think that they wanted to go, like, nostalgic with whatever you had. So you literally not that they're, like, that much different, but you get to choose
Mhm.
the one you played, like, if you did have that game. You know, if you were one of the
Okay,
people that
okay.
actually had that where they're like, if you
Mhm.
played it on Nintendo, you can play the exact one, you're not stuck playing the Sega
Sure.
one when you played it on NES. You know what I'm
Dude.
saying?
Okay.
Like, if you want the
Yeah, I'm
nostalgia,
gonna
we
eat
wanna
my
give you
words.
exactly what you played.
Yeah, so okay, here we go. I'm about to eat my words super hard. You are You are 100% right, I think now, because this game is coming out on PC. It's coming out on
Okay.
Switch. It's coming out on PS4, right? Okay, so it's on all
Yep,
this
yep,
stuff.
yep.
Basically, PlayStation and probably Xbox would be a little bit harder to do. Are the only two places where you can't get the controller connected that you used to play with. Did I say that?
Okay. I
Did I
get
say
you,
that
I
right?
get you.
Yeah.
Yes, I get you. Yep, yep. That made perfect
Yeah.
sense to me. Yep.
Yeah. That's so I bet you that's yeah. Fucking A. Because even on the arcade editions and on I mean, actually on every system you could probably hook an arcade stick to and be good
Oh, sure.
and get that feel. But like the controller thing, man, fuck, I didn't even think of that. You just yep. I'm eating my fucking words.
I didn't think of it initially either. It just hit me in this last part when you said it. I'm just like, oh, I bet that's what it is. I don't know. I didn't think of it initially, and then it just popped in.
Yeah. No, no, it's a
So,
great point.
and
Um
side note,
y-
like I know we're
mhm.
talking about old games, but just to touch on like how you were saying never beat it. That's why I want to play the remake of Final Fantasy VII
Yes.
because I had that game on the original PlayStation, and
Okay.
for whatever reason, there was something wrong with like the disc I had. I think I still have that game someplace,
Oh. Yeah,
but
dude. That happened.
the it was like every time I got to a certain spot, like far in this game, I'm talking days.
If you beat the first disc, you were super far in that game. That's all there is to Final Fantasy VII.
Yes, always made it to the second disc, and then there was a certain point where I would save, and I don't remember exactly where it was, but then the data would corrupt.
Yep.
I played through that twice where it happened, and I never beat
Yep.
it. And the third time, I was just like, I am not putting this much time into it again. Just that, yeah, like I can't. For my mental
Yeah.
health, for my own mental health,
Right.
I cannot
Mhm.
do this again. I did it
Oh,
twice. The
man.
first time, it took me a while to get over it, but I'm like, you know what? I don't know what happened, but
Yeah.
let's do it again. And then the
I
second time, I'm
I
just like, I'm done with this game forever. And then they're like, we're making a remake, and I'm like,
Forever.
oh, I bet it will not it won't corrupt this time, right? It can't. Wha-
Probably not, right? Or is it gonna be the same
right.
thing? Are they gonna recreate the corruption? What the fuck? No.
Right. They know who I am. They got they got my information. They're just like, we're gonna
Hey,
ruin this man's life.
we're gonna really fuck with this guy.
Why Square Enix?
So, yeah, this is something we haven't spent a lot of time on, but dude, that game is my fucking game. Dude, that's my fucking game. So
Oh,
I could go on a
yes.
really long time about it, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to say is two things. I'm
Okay.
about to buy the remake for the second time.
For the second
Shame on
time.
me. Yeah. I'm gonna buy it on PC because the DLC is only available on next gen systems and it's impossible still, even though I've been trying for months to get a PS5. So fuck you. I'm just gonna buy it on my PC that will run it at
I
PS5
get it.
level
Yep.
and eat shit. Um so I beat it on PS4 the first time. The second thing is this is actually my happy version of nostalgia. Like uh, I'm not super pumped on buying the Cowabunga collection. I'm gonna do it, but I know that they're just saying, please rebuy these games that you loved as a kid. Hopefully, they don't suck when you play them again. They won't because they're like we'll play the 16-bit ones most of the time, which we already said are dope.
Right.
They're just ports. This dude, full on reimagining of Final Fantasy VII without Uh, it is. I'm trying to avoid spoilers here, but it's a full on reimagining. Like they could have called it Final Fantasy VII Reimagined. It it delivers.
Yeah.
You're gonna understand everything that's going on if you've played the first one. If
Okay.
you've never played the first one, if you've never played the OG, you're still gonna get it and you're still gonna love it and it's still gonna be a full thing. But this is a like years long situation that they're getting into. And when you finish this one,
Yeah.
you just go, oh, okay.
Okay.
In the sense of like that's when you really realize that this is a reimagining of Final Fantasy VII and it's not recreating it in the like sense of Cheaper by the Dozen just came out on Disney Plus again.
Yeah.
Without watching it,
It's dog shit.
s- same movie. You watched it? Did you watch it?
No, I looked at the reviews and said, not watching that one.
Yeah, because it's the same fucking movie made for the third
Dude,
time. Who gives a fuck, dude? Come
it's
on.
it's one of the lowest rated. I know this is a little bit side note, but I'm gonna tell you real quick. The Cheaper by the Dozen, IMDb it got a 3.9 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it a 34%, which you're like, okay, so they're like, yeah, it's been done again. So what's the audience score though? 31. Even
Oh
less of the
boy.
people that watched it were like, I
Less.
like this movie.
Right.
That's
Right.
dude, to have less than a third of the people that watched it actually like enjoy watching it. That's
Right.
so dog shit.
Yeah. And that's the part that I'm talking about is like there's a point where you need to stop banking on nostalgia and start filling
Yes.
what's missing instead of trying to just hope that nostalgia makes you money. And to to bring this back to 16-bit games is these games are solid. People
Right.
continue to make quote unquote 16-bit games and they're solid. And that's
Yes.
because it's just a solid way like it's just a proven solid way to make games. 3D's
Yeah.
hard. But if you
Yep.
have a good fucking idea, man, and you can make decent graphics because the 16-bit era, like you said with Mario, that's the gap, that's the jump. Like you said with Mortal
Mhm.
Kombat, it's real fucking people.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Like you can visually pick out what's awesome
Hell yeah.
in a 16-bit game. You go less than that and you feel like something's missing. You go more than that and you just start to get shading and shadows and everything like that, which people are doing now when they're making these quote unquote 16-bit games. They're adding extra shadows and extra things like that. But like, I- it's just
Right.
they're
Yeah, you remember
they're
us
paying homage. They're still making an original piece. They're
right.
not just regurgitating the
You
past.
you remember that like secret thing in the Super Mario World where like where you find the white blocks or whatever you could hold down and you'd like go behind the blocks?
Oh yeah, dude.
You
That was in
couldn't
Mario
do that
3
shit
also,
on.
sort of, but
Oh, was it on Mario 3?
kind of. I'm jumping ahead,
Wasn't
but
that was like the flute thing, right? That was like you could go above everything, wasn't it?
no, there was that one uh there were those like solid pieces that had the bolts in each corner. It's like in the
Oh,
first
you're
level.
right. I know what you're
And
talking
you could
about.
find there
Yeah.
was one spot, yeah, and you could drop behind that, but it didn't look I know where you're going with it.
Yep.
It wasn't the same
Yep.
thing. It didn't I feel like Mario World took that
Okay. Yeah.
to the next
Ran
level.
with it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, I know we were talking about video games, but I got to go back back to it real quick. The just to put in comparison, I haven't seen that Cheaper by the Dozen, but, like, since we were talking about nostalgia, it kinda plays into it too. That
Mhm.
latest Ice Age movie.
Oh god.
So, the Ice Age
Even before that
Adventures
thing
of
came
Buck
out,
Wild.
I said, "What the fuck are they doing?"
So,
So keep
I
going.
have a son, so like, when new movies come out, I'm always like, "Yeah, let's give him," new movie, like, "Yeah, it's a movie night," or whatever.
Mhm.
And Buck Wild was in one of the other movies, and he was a cool character, and I'm like, "That's pretty sweet," like, I'll check it out.
Mm, okay.
And, I thought it would be decent, like, the Ice Age movies are pretty good. This
Yeah,
one
they've done
is
alright.
dog shit. It is yeah, I so we've talked about other Disney movies or whatever. Bluey is
Yep.
hands down my favorite kids show. It is so well written,
Yeah,
and
it's also
Bluey
Australian.
Bluey puts out 8-minute long episodes.
Mm.
I would rather watch the same 8-minute long episode for the full duration, like, looped, over watching this fucking movie, and it still got a 4.6 out of 10 on IMDb. It's a full point higher than Cheaper by the Dozen. And so
And you fucking hated it.
this movie is so dog shit. The critics gave it a 20%, which is worse than that other one. But the audience gave it a 45, which I don't know if it's just like these mouth breather things are like, my kid seemed to like it. Like, well, yeah, because your kid doesn't understand storylines and stuff. But dude, it is uh like they advertise this like a normal movie, and it is so shitty, so bad.
Really? Really?
Dude, I cannot get over how bad it was. It took me about the first 2 minutes where I just go, oh no. I signed up for like an hour and a half of this. Shit. I literally checked out. I was like playing on my phone. I don't even know
Right.
what happened the rest of the movie. I
Yep.
just know that
Because
it was literally worse than the worst kids shows out there.
oh
There's one
god.
my son
Oh
watches
god.
where it's like just these little colorful things that run around that don't even say any words. There's no dialogue, and that's better than Buck Wild.
Dude, that's so horrible.
It's dude, if you can get away with it, do not watch that movie. It's so bad.
Oh,
Don't
I will
stray
not
away
watch
from the
that
one
movie.
that has Buck Wild in it. I can't remember which movie that is. I want to say it's the one where it's like
I th
where they introduce the dinosaurs where stuff starts thawing out.
Yeah. Yep, I was gonna say I think it's no, it's Dawn of the Dinosaurs because stuff starts thawing out in the second one, I think, and then the third one is I believe the third one's Dawn of the Dinosaurs.
Okay, yeah, and Buck
Either
Wild's
way,
in
I'm
that
not
one, and he's a
super
good
up to
character, and
date on them.
everything's good, and I don't know what the fuck happened in this one.
And this
It's one of
movie's
those
a
movies
shit.
you're watching and you're trying to understand, like, how did this get greenlit? Who wrote this script? Like, all of this. Who said okay? Which one of these people decided that
Oh,
they would put it underneath
uh,
this, like, branch? Like, who gave them the green light to say this is an Ice Age movie? Like, there's so much where you're just like, how did this thing get made?
yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
like a National Lampoons thing where they just gave up? Like it was, National
Yes.
Lampoons was great, and then eventually they're just like, whatever, it's dog shit, but say National Lampoon, and maybe we'll make some money off of it.
Dude, yes. That is 100% what happened because
Probably.
Disney used to be that company, and they dug themselves out of that hole because they were that company and they started to get shit on, and that was happening like, that actually the 16-bit era of video games had something to do with that because they were making movies for kids, and then they were just selling the franchises off, and then these games were just too fucking hard for a kid to play.
Yeah, dude, they
And
were hard.
and then they would make these shitty sequels, and nobody gave a fuck because they were shitty sequels, and it's just like Disney's
Right.
really dug themselves out of a Apple style almost, where they had this hard time in the late '90s, early 2000s. They had to dig
True.
themselves out of and And now those shitty 2D 16-bit like Aladdin and Lion King, they're back. Why?
Yeah.
They sucked then. They fucking sucked
Right.
then. Why are you gonna buy it
Yeah.
again? There's a whole
Right.
Disney collection of shitty
Oh,
Disney games.
all the
They're
Disney
and
games were horseshit.
yeah, and people are fucking buying them again because there's a Disney collection out there for 19.99 or whatever the fuck it is, and it's
Dude, that
just
was
like
like all the
DuckTales was
games.
okay.
Yeah, that was like all the games my sister had for the Sega Game Gear. I had like the fighting games, and she had like all the Disney games, and they were shitty. I would
They
throw them
suck
in when
so
you
hard.
got bored of like playing the other fighting games and stuff,
Yep, yep.
like Shaq Fu.
Yes. Which, by the way, also got a remake
Did it?
recently. 2 years ago, I
It's
think?
such a
Yeah,
weird, it's such a weird game because it's like all these actual like fighting style characters that they created, and then they're just like, and also Shaq.
and don't forget Shaq. Like, what?
Shaq Fu. Just like,
So did he invent his own fighting style? What is
right.
happening here?
Are they all, is Shaq like the best one? Is he like, if you choose
Right, right,
him, is he
right.
the
So if I
best
just pick
one?
Shaq every time, do I win?
Then I mean, he's pretty big.
Right.
So,
So is that what's happening? I don't know.
right. Yeah.
Uh, which that was, I think, if I remember it correctly, that was another one of those 16-bit games where they were like doing real photos, like of it wasn't. I don't
Oh,
believe
it
it was
could have been
cartoon. It
on the
wasn't hand drawn.
Genesis. It was all cartoon on Game Gear.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't know if it
okay.
was a
Then
different
it may
game
have
on
been.
Genesis.
I I played such a small amount of it. This is, dude. I think somebody did this. Fuck, man. I wish I knew this game, but I think somebody else did this. But like, I'm a big fan of just hard work because like Cuphead is one of my favorite games
Yeah.
of all time now. It's
Okay.
not nostalgia because I wasn't alive in the 40s and 50s.
Right.
It's it's a huge respect thing for me that that game is literally hand drawn.
Yes.
And
Yeah, you can tell.
yeah,
Not
and
in a
that
bad way.
happens.
Like you just know.
Right, right, right. And that was something that was happening in the 16-bit era. You remember Clay Fighters?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Dude, I think they really built those characters. I think they really animated that by
Dude, it
hand
was
and then put
crazy
and
how
took
many
pictures.
different fighting games there were. Like now that we're like
Oh
going
yeah.
back in
Now
this
that we're
nostalgic,
reflecting.
not just 16-bit
Yeah.
into like the next level 2, or what you saw in the, there was that Primal Rage where it's just dinosaurs. You just a
Oh,
dinosaur
dude,
fighting
Primal
game.
Rage was sick. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That was an arcade game too.
And then you got just all the different, like everybody trying to make up their own different characters, and some of them stick, some of them didn't. You had like Streets of Rage and
Oh yeah.
uh Fatal Fury,
Oh
and
yeah. I
Street
forgot the Fatal
Fighter,
Fury.
and yeah,
Yeah.
there's quite a few of them where they're like, we're just gonna make up our own characters. They'll have their own signature moves, and some
Yeah.
of them stuck, some of them didn't. But it was crazy
Right.
how everybody's like pitching different fighting games and different characters and different worlds and different powers back then. And that's like,
Yeah.
now you only have the ones that are just like tried and true. It's like Street Fighter and Virtua Fighter,
Right.
and or not
Yep.
even Virtua
And
Fighter,
like
Street Fighter and Tekken.
right. Are like the only ones
Right.
that keep making new games. Yeah. I mean, DOA, I think. Anyways, yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying. Like think about
Yeah,
how
Clay Fighters, I forgot about
yeah,
that.
right. Yeah. No, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That so like nostalgia or good games, like, well, it was actually a really good era because of what you just
Yeah.
said. It's just like
Hmm.
now we get 3 fighting games. They're all solid, they're all tried and true, they're all in
Yeah.
esports tournaments. Cool.
Well,
They're great.
and with, yeah, I was gonna say, with all like the reviews and social media and stuff, like if your game's not good, nobody's gonna buy it. If your game
Mhm.
looked cool back then, you would find it in an arcade. You
Right.
know? It didn't
Yep.
have to be that good, like, it just had to look cool and have a good, like,
Mhm.
storyline to it, and you'd find it in an arcade.
Right. Right. Not even story, lore. And
Yes, yes, yep, exact yeah, I said it
because
wrong.
yeah, because there was no stories around, like, the fighting games, right? There wasn't really a
Right,
story,
yep,
but it was
yeah,
all in the
exactly.
instruction manual when you bought it,
Right,
or
I
it
mean,
was
there's
being
no
thrown around
storyline
at the
to, like,
arcade.
dinosaur right, there's no storyline to dinosaur fighting, they're just, like, primal rage, and it's dinosaurs, and you're like, "Oh, no shit, I could be a dinosaur? Hey, look at that one's got, like, spikes on his head that looks like a mohawk, and he's orange, it's
Right.
fucking dope, I'm gonna be him."
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
and I just listened to a podcast where they were interviewing, people about NBA Jam, and
Yeah,
NBA Jams from the 16-bit era, which
yep,
was real photos, yeah, maybe not on the characters when they were on the court, but when you were selecting your player, like, that was a fucking
yep.
photo. For
Hell yeah,
sure, that was a photo.
you can find those T-shirts now.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
I never even thought about it, I haven't seen them, but if, like, yeah, of course you can.
Mhm. Yep, you got all those
Sick.
different stats and stuff.
Yeah, and so that was one thing in the, uh, a podcast that I was listening to. They were just like, "Oh, you have to be, Stockton because he can steal." And the programmers were
Oh, yeah.
this was like beta mode in the arcade, so the developers would just hang out in the arcade and watch people play and listen to them, and, no one would have any
Okay.
idea. And the developer was like, "So I heard a kid say that, and there were no stats. Like, every player was exactly equal." But because they thought that, that was how they would
Oh,
play, like, that was and then he's like, "So I
right,
heard that, and I
right.
just went back and programmed that shit in."
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
just
and it
know,
was
like,
like
this is this player's strength, so then they just exactly, that's a good way to think about it. He can
yeah,
steal.
yeah,
Well, they can all steal, it's just that because know that in real life he can steal, you're trying it in game.
right. Yep,
That's
yeah.
awesome to think about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he actually went back and programmed it in so that, people were more likely to steal if they were and stuff like that. So it was really cool to hear, but that's the
That's
lore
crazy.
thing of that era. Like
Yeah.
that's what I was talking about with the lore is just like you didn't have to like see or hear the story. It was just like sort of one of those things that just got passed around, I guess.
That's so funny to me to that's how you got the crossover from, like, actual sports fan to or, like, from tech nerd to actual sports fan.
Oh yeah,
Like,
dude.
"Oh, we can make shots," and then a kid in the game in the arcade is just like, "Stockton knows how to steal, you can steal." They all have their different strengths or whatever, you know?
Right, right.
And then the guy's just like, "Oh, shit, yeah, stats. They're not all the same. The small white guy isn't the same as you know."
Right, right, as Shaq, who just fucking
Right,
drives the
yeah,
lane. Yeah.
right. Well, Shaq wasn't in that, but it would've been like Charles Barkley, you know? It's like Charles Barkley
Right, yeah.
and John Stockton don't have the same stats. That's very true.
Right.
John Stockton, his dunk stat, real low. But
Right, right. So it was so sick. And I
but
so
everybody could dunk in that game, just to clear that up, you
right, I
know,
mean, NBA
that
Jam,
was
right?
different.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah.
dunk it from half court.
You could. And so, actually, that was one of the games that I played. I played with my, 12 or 13-year-old nephew.
Yeah.
We had a great time. He got it. He gets it. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
dude, again, solid fucking game. Now, I think nostalgia kicked in a little bit because I was like, "Couldn't I do that before? Doesn't" but then you also go, "Well, it's a ROM. It might
Yeah.
it might be missing that. I'd have to really, like, plug in the cartridge and play." But, like, it's a side scroller.
Yep.
Break it down. What is NBA Jam? It's a side scroller.
Yep.
Solid as fuck, dude. It's
Yep.
so good. And I don't wanna end the podcast on a note like we're shitting on 3D or that we're shitting on new games because we're not.
Oh,
right? I
no,
mean,
not even a little, dude. Like,
no, no.
new games are far superior to the old ones. They're just like
Right,
they're still good games given what they are. It's just like I mean, clearly it's not the same
right,
thing, but it's like a game on your cell phone. There's good games
right.
on your phone, but
Oh,
clearly one
100%.
on a console or a PC is better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
for sure. And I think even to just like, dude, I mean, the Nintendo was the Nintendo. You fucking can't discredit the NES in any way. You can't.
no. Mm-mm.
But Nintendo games don't always hold up. Most of the Nintendo games don't hold up because they didn't
Yeah.
have enough color. There wasn't enough sound. There wasn't enough memory, generally speaking, to make something that was easy to digest. And then you just make this jump to the 16-bit era and it's like, fuck, dude, these just hold up. And I don't think that's
Yep.
us
Yep.
growing up in that era just saying that.
No, I mean you just proved it with your nephew, you know? Your
Right.
nephew
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
it. He plays the new stuff. He's young and he
Mhm.
was like totally into the game with you being a
Right.
16-bit old
Yeah.
school,
Good. Yeah.
you
Good
know?
point. Good point. Yeah. Just
So, dude, that's what
solid.
I'm gonna
Solid
start.
games.
That's what I'm gonna start my kid on too. You know,
Oh, dude.
side
Yeah.
scrollers because I'll give you 2 dimensions. We'll talk about three when you get the two down.
Good point. It's easier to comprehend uh to just get your hands on the controller
Yep.
and get it and just absorb the movements and then it's like, "Hey, all right, cool. You got that. Now here's dual sticks."
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Hopefully you don't play inverted. I'm kidding. I'm inverted.
I can't handle it. I've tried.
I know.
We've
I
played
know.
games before where we swap controllers, and I'm like, what is happening?
We're always just like, quick start menu, down, down. No, it's 3 down. Right there. Yep, that one. Okay, go.
Right. Bam, bam,
Because
bam,
it's
bam. Go,
online,
go.
you're like just fucking struggling.
Yeah. I tried to, like, he was above me, and I looked at the floor.
Floor. Oh, fucking A, man. Well, yeah. I didn't know where this was gonna go, but I wanted to bring it up because of that arcade machine and you really nailed it. I didn't even think about how that my nephew was like he just got it. It was just like, "Oh yeah, that one's shoot, that's jump, that's turbo." He's like, "Okay, got it." And it's like and we had a great time.
Hell yeah.
You know, uh,
Yep.
I think you're right. It's not just nostalgia. Like that was a breakthrough generation, the 16-bit era.
Yes, it was. Very much so. I
All
believe.
right, man. Let's wrap this shit up.
Yeah.
Really FTV podcast. You know it because you're listening to it. But does your friend know about it? Does that guy at
Yeah.
the gas
Does he?
station that you stop
Does
at
she?
every morning? Does they know it?
Does they?
Does they? Does your niece know about it? Who is like, she's out there looking at you going, "Unc, what you doing?" And you're just like,
Hmm.
"Fishing off the pier. You want to join me?"
Yeah. Does she? Does she know about it?
Does she know about the podcast? Because we want to expand our podcast to everybody who enjoys fishing. And we have this random take that we do on the back half for some fun. But don't forget, this is a bi weekly podcast. It comes out every other Monday. And on the off week, we have the fishing topic coming out on Wednesday. And we have the random take coming out on Friday. So if you find this random take boring, you can tell the other people, hey, just go over to YouTube, look up Real AF TV, Real like fishing reel. On Wednesdays, you can just listen to the fishing part. These
Yeah,
guys are
or
weird.
vice versa. If you're just like, I don't really fish, but I can get down on some 16-bit video games.
That's right. So, If you can help us out there, fellow listeners, by sharing the podcast, that would be great. We're everywhere. We're on Instagram. Well, we're not everywhere because we haven't got the TikTok moving yet, but sheesh, is that fucking Slack channel burning up right now, Tim? You got some
Woo!
good shit on there. God, we got to get moving. Look us up
Got
on Instagram. Look us
ideas.
up on Twitter. Real AF TV. Remember, real like fish and real. We're on the Facebooks as well, and you can find us on the internet at realaf.tv and Patreon, of course. What did I forget, Tim?
Nothing.
Yeah, I don't think so. We're on the major podcast outlets,
Get
and
you a
if we're
monster
not,
bass bag, box bag.
box bag. But yeah, if we're not on your favorite podcast outlet, or you're trying to share it with someone, and they're like, I don't know, I listen on this fucking random podcast, let us know.
Yeah.
realaf.tv/contact, and I will do my best to get us up on that feed. Tim,
Yep.
there's one more thing that I forgot to mention
Yeah.
about those fucking one-up machines. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about? Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. We've
I
talked
know.
about these things before because